This podcast episode is brought to you by Coors Light. These days, everything is go, go, go. It's nonstop hustle all the time. Work, friends, family, expect you to be on 24/7. Well, sometimes you just need to reach for a Coors Light because it's made to chill. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged. It's as crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Rockies. It is literally made to chill. Coors Light is the one I choose when I need to unwind. So when you want to hit reset, reach for the beer that's made to chill. Get Coors Light in the new look delivered straight to your door with Drizzly or Instacart. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Okay, on April 22nd at 9:43 p.m., Adrian Wojnarowski tweeted, "Phoenix has fired coach Igor Kokoskov. League sources tell ESPN." Jesus Christ. My name is Mike V. Hill. Welcome to the Timeline of Phoenix Suns podcast. I'm here with Sam Cooper. Sam, how are you doing?
Not thrilled to be doing this. We already recorded an episode today. It's 1:20 a.m. in New York, and this is some straight up bullshit that we're about to talk about, but, you know, we got to analyze it, so let's fucking go.
And joining us on a really late notice is Sreekar, the Sreeky Shooter himself from Twitter. Sreekar, how are you doing?
Also not well, man. I was going to go to sleep early tonight. I was hoping the Jazz would lose so I could tweet some more slander about Donovan Mitchell and then go to bed, but the fucking Suns, as they always do, had to ruin my night.
Yeah, it's funny. Sam and I were recording a mailbag episode. We were answering questions from Reddit, and one of the questions we got was, what kind of changes do you expect in this offseason, and included a coaching change? And I literally dismissed it. I said, I just don't think that's going to happen. I feel like we're going to bring Igor Kokoskov back. I don't see any potential for a new coaching change. And then, of course, this comes relatively out of nowhere. Now, I'm not going to say that Igor Kokoskov was an excellent coach and did a really excellent job this year, but I also don't think that he did a fireable job so far this year. Sreekar, what do you think?
Yeah, this is a stupid move. This is an indefensible move. They fucking went into the season with a rookie center, 3 other rotation rookies, and no point guard. What the hell was he supposed to do with this team? They showed growth. Some of the players showed growth over the course of the season. You saw some of the things you wanted to see. How the fuck are you going to fire him now? It's just, why would anyone come to Phoenix when shit like this happens, when it's a revolving door?
Well, so here's the only important thing to talk about, I think, is that Woj is reporting that the Suns are trying to get Monty Williams to Phoenix. He's already had an interview with LA, apparently, and is going to have a second interview with them. And the two connections that we know about are this. Jeff Bauer was the Hornets GM back in the late 2000s. Literally one of his last moves as the Hornets GM before he was canned, or before, I think it might have been that he stepped down, was appointing Monty Williams as their head coach. That was in 2010, and Williams was their head coach for about 4 or 5 seasons. The other connection is that Monty Williams was an assistant coach in Portland in 2007, 2008, when James Jones was playing there. So, look, I'm fucking pissed about it. Igor did not deserve to be fired. It's an indefensible move. But at the end of the day, this is a business where it's all about who you know, and Igor was not James Jones's hire. I was literally just saying that on the mailbag episode that we were recording. It wasn't his hire. Up until this point, we didn't know how he felt about him, and now we know that they would prefer to bring in one of their guys that they're more comfortable with. Whether or not Monty Williams is a better basketball mind than Igor Kokoskov is kind of irrelevant to the situation. It's just clear that this front office just wants to bring in their inner circle to do their bidding.
Yeah, exactly. Sreekar, what do you think about Monty Williams?
I think he's fine. I think he's a well-respected coach. I think especially he's a player's coach. Players love him. He seems to be a really great guy. I've read a lot about him. And one thing I do know for sure is that players love that guy. So from that perspective, I think it's fair to target him. But it's the order of operations here is so fucked. This is a coach. This is a coach who became a head coach for the first time this year. You hired him a year ago. and you're letting him go now just so you can try and go after another coach that is definitely being interviewed by other teams, and you have a pretty decent chance of not even being able to hire him. Like, this just makes this is how a terrible business is run, and that's just what we've seen for like the last decade.
So Monty Williams is a good coach. I think that he worked for Greg Popovich. He was the head coach of the New Orleans team, a team that struggled a little bit when Anthony Davis was young, but in his last season, he won 45 games, a winning record with that team. He went through a lot after that. His wife died in a tragic car crash. That's a big story, and he took some time off away from the NBA. He also was an assistant coach with the Oklahoma City Thunder. He's also been with this Philadelphia coaching staff for the last 2 seasons, including this season. And now, of course, he's up for a head coaching job. Likely would have been a head coach if his wife hadn't tragically passed away immediately after that Oklahoma City job. And I think he would be an excellent coach. But exactly what you said, Sreekar, this is the wrong order of operations. And to me, if you don't know for sure, if you don't have 100% certainty that Monty Williams is coming to Phoenix, this is an absolutely insane thing to do for a couple of reasons. But this is also the team that accidentally traded for Marshawn Brooks when they were trying to get Dylan Brooks. This isn't exactly a team that completely understands the order of operations, the proper way to do things in the NBA. Now, you could say, oh, well, maybe Jeff Bauer is the guy that does understand that, and that's the only way to hold on to a little bit of hope here. Jeff Bauer does have a working relationship with Monty Williams. It's possible that he could bring Monty Williams in and immediately bring him into the culture. But Sam, you also had that point about him not being a James Jones guy. So I think there's a couple things that we need to find out from this. One, whose decision was it? Because if it was Robert Sarver's decision once again, then we know that he could have just woken up this morning and decided to fire Igor Kokoskov the way he did with Ryan McDonough. At 2, if it was James Jones's decision, then that actually kind of makes sense. Okay. That makes sense. Hire your guy. You're in charge now, and go ahead and go. And if it was Jeff Bauer's decision, that's a problem because we were told that Jeff Bauer is under James Jones. And, he was hired by Robert Sarver, so it's also possible Jeff Bauer has a direct line to Robert Sarver, and he can make decisions sort of underhandedly with James Jones. And I know this is insane to put this kind of drama around this team, but is it? Really, is it that insane to assume that things are already this dysfunctional, that this coach could get fired this early? This will be 5 coaches since Devin Booker was drafted. That's completely insane. So I don't know how insane it is to believe that this kind of thing would happen this quickly. I'm not really sure what else to say about this. How did you feel about Igor Kokoskov in general, Sam?
I didn't love Igor Kokoskov, but I thought it was a better motion offense than we had seen in the past. Increased the amount of assists, increased the ball movement. The most important thing, we saw development out of almost everyone on this team. Josh Jackson might have been a disappointment this season, but we saw month-to-month development out of DeAndre Ayton. We saw month-to-month development out of Mikal Bridges, month-to-month development out of Devin Booker. And so, as Sreekar just said, at the beginning of the episode, like, you just can't expect much out of a team that was starting 3 or 4 rookies for a lot of the season. Never had Kelly Oubre, TJ Warren really healthy for too much of the season. Didn't get a competent point guard unless you count Tyler Johnson, for about 15 games, till about 2/3 of the way through the season. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't in love with Igor, but I just hope he gets another opportunity. He has to get another opportunity somewhere soon, right? Because he's a well-respected coach. I don't even know who else has a vacancy right now. We haven't had time to research this, but he's a well-respected coach, worked for many, many teams, has a championship ring with Detroit, obviously good working relationship with Quinn Snyder from his years with Utah. I just have to assume that a less dysfunctional organization is going to give him a second look because the Suns really did him dirty tonight.
Sreekar, would you have fired Igor Kokoskov, or how did you feel about him? Just in general, outside of all the other drama surrounding this weird decision, how did you feel?
No, I definitely wouldn't have. I think 19 wins isn't great, but the team was flawed, and you saw growth over the course of the season, as Sam was saying, and as I said earlier, and I think he showed enough to warrant continuity, and that's the biggest thing. I think there's been no continuity over Booker's career in 4 years, and you're once again starting over. And I think he didn't there was nothing obviously bad about him, like where you had to, where you lose faith in him after hiring him less than a year ago. It just doesn't make sense. And I think any competent franchise would have valued continuity for their young guys over whatever they're doing now. And I think I mean, Igor had flaws, especially with his rotation and things like that. But he was in his first year as well. And I think he was a smart basketball mind. And as Sam was saying, I think some team will and should take a chance on him being a head coach. I don't think it'll happen immediately. I think he's going to go back to being an assistant probably for another year or two, because I just think it's hard to go from being a first-time head coach on a 19-win team and having the Sun stench on you to getting another chance immediately. But I think he'll be back.
Yeah, what I wonder is what would make this job appealing now. Now, of course, there's the immediate Zion Band-Aid that can cover over all of Robert Sarver's mistakes at this point. But if the NBA were to ever rig a draft, I mean, the only way they would rig it is to make sure that Zion doesn't come to an organization that's this dysfunctional at this point. That would actually make kind of sense as far as protecting one of the biggest assets that's ever come into the league. But like, if this is a job that is appealing to anyone, then you can look at potentially what is here and what could be something that's appealing to a coach. Of course, you have Devin Booker, who is a lead guard who can lead a team offensively. You have DeAndre Ayton, a number one pick, a great center, a potential piece. And then what? You have Mikal Bridges, you have Kelly Oubre, I guess, potentially. And then you look at the amount of turnover with coaches. That's not a great look. The only thing that could potentially save the Suns in this situation is James Jones, who's a first-time general manager who was in the NBA 3 years ago. And a lot of what his success was in the NBA was following around the second greatest player of all time. So it's an interesting situation. Now, a couple things. Now, if we look at this from a different perspective here, Monty Williams is the right type of guy to establish the right type of culture for an organization. Let's say you're fully pressing the reset button and trying to wipe away everything that Ryan McDonough did to this team previously, and you're trying to reset the culture for this team. Step one, potentially hiring Jeff Bauer. Step two, potentially moving James Jones into that leadership position that he's in right now. And then step three could potentially be getting Monty Williams into this organization. Now, part of the problem that we haven't talked about, Monty Williams is about to interview his second interview for the Lakers, that job for the Lakers. So this is part of the problem here. You're trying to jump in and pull him away from a team like the Lakers. Now, I do have a question for both of you, which is interesting. Now, I know the Lakers have LeBron James. I know. But do you think, just personnel-wise, do you think the Lakers' job is infinitely better than the Suns? Do you think it's close? Do you think that the Suns are better in any way? Or what do you think about just a coach without the organization? Now, the Lakers are a mess, of course, as well. We saw Magic Johnson quit publicly without telling his boss. But, like, which job do you think is more appealing? Sam, what do you think?
Is that a question?
Well, it kind of is. At this point, it kind of is.
I would, if I had the option, I'm taking the Lakers job 10 times out of 10. It's sad to say.
It's just the instability, right?
It's the instability. I mean, you could argue for the whole culture reset idea, but I just don't see how we can value that more than needing stability. And we still haven't talked about Devin Booker. Here's the thing. Devin Booker maybe never gave a public comment on Igor Kokoskov. We don't really truly know how he and the rest of the Valley Boys felt about him, but I'm just curious to see what Devin Booker is thinking about this, because as you said, 5 coaches in 5 years, you do not want to make the wrong move to piss him off at this point and get him out of town with a single tweet.
The one thing I will say from that perspective is that I did get a sense throughout the season that Igor wasn't maybe necessarily a player's coach that someone like Monty Williams would be. And I think a lot of it, Igor is a tactician, and he's a a smart coach. He's an intelligent coach, but he never seemed to quite have the grasp of the players, at least from a chemistry standpoint. And that's been a complaint about him and I think some of it was overblown. But so I think I wouldn't be surprised. All that is to say, I wouldn't be surprised if Booker wasn't necessarily a fan, and other players on the team weren't necessarily fans. But that being said, this is a young ass team that hasn't won over 25 games in Booker's entire career, and there's only so much stock you should put into that side of things as a franchise who's been around for longer.
Yeah, interestingly, when you were describing Igor Kokoskov and his difficulty to relate to the players, it sure sounded a lot like the Ryan McDonough version of a coach. This was actually Ryan McDonough's one of his biggest flaws. He was an incredibly smart guy who really understood basketball at a level that you wanted GM to understand basketball at, but his difficulty throughout his career here in Phoenix was relating with the players and being on the same page as his star players. He had problems with Isaiah Thomas, he had problems with Goran Dragic, he had problems with Eric Bledsoe.
But it's not the same thing. Like, I understand the general comparison, but let's not say that Igor Kokoskov ever made any mistakes even close to what Ryan McDonough had several seasons to do in terms of, hurting player chemistry. Kokoskov didn't do anything. You could argue maybe he wasn't best friends with the players, and maybe that's because he wasn't a former player himself. And I agree with you guys. I mean, I got that notion too, that maybe he wasn't best friends with them, but I still think there was a general level of respect.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I don't think we ever had any, with Ryan McDonough, we had players publicly talking about him. Interestingly, by the way, Earl Watson weighed in.
What?
I don't know if you guys saw it, but he just said what? Yeah, he just said what with a question mark and an exclamation point. Earl Watson has been on a little bit of a Suns bashing tour over the last year or so, which is sort of understandable.
Add him to the list.
So have we.
Yeah. I find it funny, and Sreekar, I bet you get this more than Samurai, but I find it funny when someone tries to insult the Suns to a Suns fan, and it just bounces completely off of us. Like it's just that nobody is more down on the Suns than a Suns fan at this point, and it's difficult to really picture anything. But
yeah,
it's really hard to understand what we're looking at moving forward, because what happens, to me, this is the biggest problem. What happens if Monty Williams just takes the Lakers job at this point? Where do the Suns go next? Is it Dave Yeager? What other coaches are even available? Is it possible that we just go back to Kevin McHale and hire Kevin McHale as a coach? Would that surprise either one of you at this point? I mean, do you have any ideas for coaches, either one of you?
I think franchises like the Suns that aren't lucrative spots, especially for a revolving position like the head coach, I think it's like the renowned assistants who are waiting for their first chance. I don't know, maybe someone like Igor Kokoskov. And I think those are the guys that are basically your best options at this point, given where you are as a franchise. And unless you give them more time than a year, there's just no point in continuing this. Like, so I do think, given that they hired Jeff Bauer, who's like, he hasn't had a wild range of success as an NBA GM, but he has had experience on his resume as an NBA GM. They hired him. They're apparently going after Monty Williams, who is similar resume wise. It wouldn't surprise me if Monty Williams take the Lakers job, they find someone similar that has some experience, that has coached that ticks off a couple boxes, has coached in the NBA at the head coach level for 3+ years. Yes. Had over 0.350 win percentage. Like, I honestly think that is what it's going to come down to, and that there's your group of candidates right there. McHale being one of them.
Yeager would be a good idea, to speak for myself. I mean, like, a better idea than Igor, no, as good as you can get for a contingency plan, I guess. But I think, judging from the fact that Bauer and Jones have this common ground of both of them have a personal relationship with Monty Williams, that's something that we know so far. I would say, I mean, I couldn't give you a list right now, but just go through these two guys' careers, find any potential coaching candidates that they've served under at some point, regardless of what franchise that's with, and I guess that's your list. It doesn't necessarily matter who the best coaches are. It just matters who knows this new front office. Unfortunately, I think that's just the way it is.
I think here's a couple of thoughts that I have, and I'll see what you guys think about this. Monty Williams, for all his flaws, not entirely the best record when you just look at his total overall coaching record. Like I said, he struggled early in his years. These were young players that he was coaching, similar to Igor Kokoskov, like we talked about. but he is a highly desired coach. It's someone that has interviewed for some head coaching jobs in the past and seemed to have turned them down, under the assumption by me that he was trying to stay as an assistant coach for a while until he felt more comfortable being in the limelight again. And the fact that the Lakers are interested in him is an important part of this point I'm trying to make. Do you think that the fact that the Suns are even trying to go all in for a coach like Monty Williams is a sign that Robert Sarver is now finally willing to spend for a coach? And because not only is he someone that is desired, he is also now bidding against the team that makes the most money in the NBA for a coach. And I guess we'll find out relatively quickly, but to me, this feels like something that you would not do unless you were willing to spend. Now, famously, the Suns have spent very little on coaches in the past. They've hired coaches at very low amounts, and they've continually promoted from within to save some money. They've also never really hired a high, expensive GM. The majority of the money that Robert Sarver has spent has been on the floor, and even in that case, he hasn't really gone above the cap in a long time since Steve Nash was on the team. Do you think that this is a sign? We'll start with you, Sreekar. Do you think that this is a sign that Robert Sarver is potentially willing to spend some money this summer?
No, I don't think it is. I think, I think if it does happen to come down to that, all else equal, the salary between the Lakers and the Suns, there's no way Sarver is going to outbid the Lakers. Like you said, there's no precedent for it, especially at a head coach level. And I think Sarver has spent in certain years for players, but he's been even more than he's been than on the court. I think off the court is where he's been notoriously frugal, and head coaching being one of them. And I think that's part of the reason we're here, and that's why I don't have any faith in him spending. It's that I think Sarver knows nothing about basketball. He's a businessman who happened to make a lot of money running a business, knowing in the way that he knew how, and he's taken the same approach to an NBA franchise, basically treating employees as disposable, not needing to spend on them to acquire great talent, because he just thinks the players matter and everything he knows is the only thing that matters. I think that's the reason why we're here, and I don't think that's changing. This guy has said shit that sounded like he's may have been changing his mindset. And time and again, he showed it with his actions that no, nothing changes. And I have no faith in him actually changing his approach until he's not owning the team anymore.
It's been 15 years that Robert Sarver has owned this team. I think we probably, as Suns fans, should stop hoping for change. Unfortunately, I agree with everything that Sreekar just said. So no, I don't think this is indication that a big spending spree is coming. If you want to put that twist on it, of course, that would be nice. And look, I don't hate Monty Williams as a head coach idea in general. It's just this entire night, it's just been nonsensical.
If Monty Williams does end up being hired, if he is lured away from the Lakers, and maybe James Jones's connection to LeBron can help out a little here, and he can say, hey, Ty Lue is pretty good at coaching you. Maybe you just hang out with Ty Lue for the next few years until you retire, and then the Lakers can hire a different coach at that point. But if Robert Sarver does end up ponying up enough dough to actually get Monty Williams on this team, does that make this firing worthwhile to you, Sam?
Here's what I don't understand that we haven't talked about with Monty Williams yet. It's really confusing thinking about the team that the Suns have assembled so far and how that fits into Monty Williams' scheme. In 5 seasons as a head coach with New Orleans, the Hornets/Pelicans, because they were both. But in those 5 seasons, they never finished higher than 22nd in the NBA in pace. In 4 out of those 5 seasons, they were in the bottom 3. And you're talking about what is currently an offensive-minded team centered around Devin Booker, who's one of the worst defenders of any high-talented offensive caliber guy in the league. DeAndre Ayton, who has a very long way to go on defense, and then who knows who else. I just don't understand where the identity is there. It seems like the Suns are trying to take their biggest weakness and turn it into a strength if they did go the route of hiring Monty Williams, but I don't know that that's going to work. It seems like you'd need a serious roster overhaul and a serious overhaul to the true identity of this team. When was the last time the Suns had a defensive-minded, grind-it-down style coach? Arguably Terry Porter, over 10 years ago now, and that was a complete and utter catastrophe.
Sreekar, would it solve the way that you currently feel about this if Monty Williams is lured away from the Lakers?
No, I don't think it would, because again, it's not the results, it's the process. And the process of firing Igor at this point it's indefensible. And I think even if you happen to manage to hire a coach, I think that you wanted, in my opinion, like Monty Williams, I'm willing to. I think it's worth. He deserves to be a head coach, or at least have another shot at being a head coach. So I don't necessarily mind that. It's just the process that the team would take to get to that point. Again, even if they happen to get there, is I think inherently wrong.
So there's a couple things we need to find out. Who motivated this decision the most? Because there's three likely candidates in the front office. Of course, there's Robert Sarver, which seems likely. Of course, there's James Jones, which is possible. There's Jeff Bauer, which is also possible. But the other possibility is the players. It's possible the players voiced their displeasure in Igor Kokoskov, and I'm not entirely sure that a front office should be listening to the players at that level anyway. But I do think if that were the case, that would make the story a little bit more interesting. Kevin O'Connor did weigh in. I do want to read his tweets, and then we'll talk a little bit about this second one here. He said, the Suns fired their coach and GM in consecutive Octobers. They picked Ayton over Doncic after hiring Doncic's national team coach. They fired him in less than a year and have made countless short-sighted decisions that stem from their Mad King owner. Nothing bad the Suns do is a shocker. Then he also said Devin Booker blossoming into a star is even more remarkable considering the fact that he's about to have his fifth coach in 5 seasons and with a bunch of crappy supporting casts. The Suns have to someday create stability for Booker or else he'll go somewhere else to find it. I think that's a really good summation of what's been happening for the past year. And I think it's very, very interesting to point out the fact that this could really affect Devin Booker in the long run. And also to point out how amazing it is that his success has come throughout this awful, awful turmoil that he's had to deal with in more than probably any player in their first 5 years in the league as far as this upheaval and constant turnover and changes. Do you have any thoughts on that tweet, Sam?
Well, we've seen what happens in Phoenix when other prospects who aren't as capable, like Josh Jackson, Dragan Bender, Marquise Chris, just to name a few, try to develop in this terrible, terrible situation. So you are correct, and that's a great tweet by Kevin. It's a testament to Devin Booker just being able to rise above the layers and layers of crap.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with the initial tweets and what Sam just said. I think that's what a lot of Suns fans have been. That's part of the reason why a lot of Suns fans have been so defensive about Devin Booker is that it's obvious to people that continuously watch him that this guy's a star, and the success of the team or lack thereof is primarily due to the entire organization being a goddamn dumpster fire and him thriving even at a personal, professional level, much further beyond like 95% of the league would. Any other player in the league.
I think that's a really good point. This is obviously a developing story. There's not a lot to talk about. This literally just happened. We're recording this it's 10:47 p.m. right now. So the news just came out about an hour and a half ago. So obviously we're still trying to cycle through this. We will be back, of course, with more podcasts in the future. We'll talk about exactly what's going on. Hopefully we get some answers to the questions that we brought up on this podcast. And of course, once the new coach is hired, we will be back on to talk about that coach and how that affects the future. I hope it's good news. It's really difficult to even picture what good news could be at this point. But we'll be back soon. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. And we'll release that mailbag episode that we recorded probably by the end of this week. Don't forget to follow Sreekar at Sreeky Shooter, the best tweeter in Suns Twitter, in my opinion. Once again, thanks, Sreekar, for joining us. Thanks for listening.
Hello. Have a seat. This is very difficult to say, but no one here likes you in the office, and we are going to have to let you go. Hank, would you come up here, please? Hank is our security guard.
Oh,
He will be ushering you out. Oh, your face. Oh. No, I'm kidding. No, you're not fired yet. Oh.
Do they not like me though?
I don't know, actually.
Okay.
Whatever business you're in, growth isn't just about getting bigger. At ADP, we believe it's about getting stronger by turning data into insights so you can build teams that work as teams. By using our AI technology to help catch payroll errors before they're errors. And by keeping ahead of thousands of changing regulations so you can keep ahead of everything else. ADP helps businesses like yours grow stronger every day. ADP, HR, talent, time, and payroll.